Hello and welcome to another episode of Leah Talks. Today we are joined by Hayat. So I just want her to introduce herself because I'm sure she can do it much better than I can. So can you just let us know who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me on this podcast. And I was thinking a little bit about, to introduce yourself, and then I tend to always start, oh, I come from here and I come from there. But I thought probably much more to say a little bit who I am as a person, and that's what I very often get back from people, to start with that. Which goes to, being said to be very thoughtful, caring, and kind, which I find very important. um, let's say I struggle with boundaries, and let's say I'm with my yoga practices, kind of learning to verbalize much better, what I'm feeling, thinking, and experiencing. So that brings me maybe to my yoga journey as well. I was born in the Netherlands, where I grew up, and it was in 2012 that I started for the first time yoga, and I was in the Netherlands. And I think I was just kind of coming up as part of, fitness clubs and so on. And I'd always been playing handball, dancing, but I knew there was more. I knew there was more. And when yoga really kind of started, I thought, okay, I'm going to try. And then I actually, the first class I joined was with the teacher who is still my teacher. So that's 13 years later. So it was the right class that I entered. And just because it showed me a lot of friction that I'd never kind of experienced in such a way. Because she was very focused on the breath. And then you're just kind of evolved and breathing in particular ways without actually, all the attention to it. So that completely changed. And it's been obviously not kind of ongoing and interesting journey, and it's kind of really shaped my life, as I started to become a yoga teacher. So let's say just from the Netherlands, I moved with my husband and at the time my baby of almost a year to France. There, I did continue yoga, but not with my teacher from Maastricht, because I did want to find, a teacher there just to integrate and to find, to connect with other people. So I did find a teacher who was quite similar to my teacher in Maastricht, in terms of, exploring energetic expansion internally, really the breath work, and looking more, deeper level at yourself. And then I got pregnant again, and I wanted to continue with my teacher, just to have the prenatal yoga and, afterwards. So that was in 2014 probably, that we were online practicing yoga, which was probably one of the first times online yoga.
Yeah. Can I just ask quickly, what made you take that first yoga class?
With her, or just in general?
Just in general, yeah, your first ever yoga class.
In the Netherlands. Well, actually, it was also just a time that I was breaking up with my boyfriend and had fallen in love with who is currently my husband. And I used to be his assistant, actually. So it was, it was also just a time of moving out, going out of relationship, and actually quite quickly going into a new relationship. And I don't know if they are necessarily connected. But where I lived before was really in a national park. So it was, in that sense, let's say, more difficult to go to a fitness club or to go to a yoga class or whatsoever. And then where I lived in the Netherlands is Maastricht, which is a nice town. So I think I just started again to probably go again a little bit more back to my things, and there was space again for things that I liked and wanted to explore.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people end up go into their first yoga class because of something that's happened in their life. Like there's always some major shift, and then they've just gone to yoga and it's like it's changed their lives, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm glad that you kept it up when you moved. Was it hard to find like a new teacher, and I guess that you could understand the language as well?
Yes, yes, yes. I spoke French when we moved, and I think just already from having the teacher whom I started with, and who is still my teacher, for obvious, there are obviously reasons for for such a long time together. I was, in that sense, also really looking for something that really kind of, it was quite similar. And luckily, there was just really one woman there, because there was really kind of one big yoga school, and I went there one time, but it didn't align with me. And I did have that with the other teacher, but to be honest, I think I only stayed there for 6 months, just because I become pregnant, and I think she was also in that time going to sell her studio. So that's when I decided to get back to my teacher in the Netherlands. And I think obviously when you asked me, what was a period in which you started yoga, I'm not too this was indeed a kind of transition happening, but for me, I don't feel if that was really because of that. I do remember at one point, but this was really years before that, just in a conversation with friends, and I might have been 18 or something at the time, that I said, yeah, but your body is your temple. And then I stood still and I thought, huh, what did I say? And it just really came from, from somewhere without me realizing it. So I think probably unconsciously or subconsciously, but it's always been for me more, than what I grew up with. It's not just a kind of daily life and doing all the structures. And even if you would have to do that, there must be, there must be more. And I don't think at the time that I knew that I would find that through yoga, or that I was necessarily seeking that. It's been probably more kind of, developing.
Yeah. So what kind of yoga is it that you practice?
So I started with my teacher. She's really, let's say the main core of it is Kundalini yoga. I started my yoga teacher's training in France for 3 years in an ashram, and that was really Hatha yoga. But from the Hatha yoga, you would go towards Kundalini. So I describe my classes as Hatha yoga with a touch of Kundalini. And because I've never, I think Kundalini yoga, you have 2 ways to go there, which is a lot of breath of fire and fast movements, or through the chakras. With Hatha yoga, we really, developing upon the chakras, and you become very sensitive, to this whole kind of subtle experiences. And from there, you keep on expanding. And what my teacher in France always said to me, it's going to say this in French because it's in and then I'll translate. Il ne faut pas brûler les étapes. You shouldn't skip any steps in the whole yoga system process. But she knew where I wanted to go. That would be the Kundalini. So now, with my teacher in the Netherlands, I continue that, and it just feels, and it's really amazing, and it's very confronting as well. But I can also see, sometimes you kind of go a step forwards and then again, backwards, and then again forwards. So that's an ongoing process. But at the same time, my own practices, they stay much more at the development that I have to do within the Hatha yoga, because I mean, with that, it's endless, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. I love all this. So when you teach,
Yes.
do you teach a regular in-person class right now?
I've got so I'm based in Tanzania now. We've had some moves.
Yeah.
So here in Tanzania, it's a little bit more tricky for me because we have my husband's work, and let's say I'm not officially allowed to work. So I do give some in-person classes that I can't really promote. It's more word to mouth. So there are here some local women for whom it's completely new. And, there's a lot of cultural stigma in it, living with taboos and not being able to express themselves. So it's a very interesting dynamics to it. And I teach obviously online, and I'm developing really my online yoga business.
Yes. Yeah. I think we're so lucky nowadays to have online yoga and to have any type of yoga and spiritualness that we want at our fingertips. It's amazing. So with your teaching, what kind of yoga do you teach, and what's like your main your main point that you want to get across. I feel like every single yoga teacher has an outcome that they want their students to get. So what's yours?
Yeah. So there are probably two, I would say. One is really our internal energetic exploration. And, that doesn't go from day one and day three, it's there, right? So what I want my students as well, let's say if they only come, if it would be just one class a week, that class is not just a class from 7 to 8 p.m. It's what they should continue with. It should have kind of, if not triggered something, shown something, or stimulated something, that they take it then, obviously with them in the daily life. And then next week when they come back to the class, even though the class is completely different, it doesn't mean you've kind of lost, in that sense, what we worked on or worked with last time. It's really a few essentials in my class. I always start with the Kaya Steryam, so sitting down in a meditation posture, and also again here, depending upon, how you're used to that, you use pillows or not. And then let's say, and it's for people who join my class, the first two classes, it's very difficult, but then they have started to experience what it's doing. So my Kaya Steryam can be about 20 minutes of an hour. So that's really taking the whole awareness of the physical body to create that stability, really feeling your foundation, exploring your breath. And then from there, the whole breath work starts within the asanas and the postures. And because the other focus is really breath, pranayama.
Yes. So because there's so many different yoga styles out there, isn't there? And it's really hard for people. I hear so often people saying, oh, I don't like yoga. And it's like, well, what classes have you tried? Because there's so many different styles and they're all so different. And I have recently this year, Kundalini is like my love. I love Kundalini right now. But to start with, if I had tried that, I would have been like, what is this? It wouldn't, it didn't resonate with me when I first started my practice. So what would you say to anybody who is maybe interested in your style, but they don't feel like they like yoga?
That's interesting. Well, maybe what I just started a conversation with, and is that I get it back, and it's something natural, and I've seen my mom was also always like that, always very attentive to other people, and let's say even if something would be trivial for them, my mom would always ask about that, for instance. And I really kind of check in with everyone, and doesn't matter what I am in. Yeah, and that's something that they've started to see and and realize. So I think that might just already open up just kind of conversations and trust, for starting the yoga class. Basically in my class, also, so one thing what is important as well, but it might be maybe initially scare people off, is that when I'm teaching, I'm not showing the postures. I'm basically all the time seated in meditation posture, and I'm guiding the people through that, so that they can work basically the whole class with their eyes closed. Yeah, and also again, this doesn't happen necessarily during the first class, but quite soon thereafter. Yeah, because then you just start internalizing much more, and it's for you, and it's not what the teacher is showing or how the teacher is showing it or how the other students are doing it. Yeah, it's really a practice for you where you are then. And feedback I get a lot as well is that I somehow am able really to tune in to where they are. I want to say what their needs are, but I'm not going into what their needs are, because that's not what yoga is about either. Yeah, but there is something that I can I'm probably guiding them through without me necessarily knowing it.
Yes. And do you know what? This is one reason that I love online yoga as well, because if you're doing it in your home away from people, you're also not comparing yourself to everybody. Because I know when I first started going to in-person classes, I used to look at everybody and think, I need to be doing that. And I would push myself way too much. because I felt like I had to keep up with everybody. So I love what you're saying about keeping it inwards. In fact, your whole style, it's more about, you know, looking inwards and taking it off the mat as well. And yeah, I think a lot of people will go to a yoga class and be like, right, that's it, I'm done, and not think about yoga for the rest of the week until they go to their next class. What kind of tips do you give to people to make sure that they stay into that, like, or into that yoga mindset, I guess?
Well, I think it's probably making clear what yoga is about. And yoga, like, I mean, the postures are one small part of the whole yoga. Well, what I've started now, it's one of the things that I say to really keep, we keep in touch with them and just check, especially if they are going through particular challenges. I'm quite often in touch with them. It's now also through my newsletters to share much more about yoga, and I think a lot has gone lost in yoga, let's say within the yoga industry, which which is a shame. And actually now last weekend, my group from France, they were together again, so I could join online in the morning for the puja. And the puja is the meditation and the ritual with singing particular mantras. And basically, it was a very kind of straightforward meditation, with the questions, why take this time to sit? Why lose this time to sit? Yeah, and that's, I think, the two very essential questions, especially now in the world that we're living. And also really within the whole yoga world, and because it would be going to the essence of life, and that's what is, that's what yoga is about. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So talking about taking it into your life, have you found that yoga and teaching yoga has helped with parenting?
Oh, yes and no. No, it has. For sure. I've kind of learned to become, well, let's put it this way. I think when so I've got two boys, and one was born in the Netherlands, the second one was born in France. And actually, when my husband and I got together, he's much older than I am, so he had at the time two daughters who were teenagers, and we didn't want me to be there. So so I got into quite a challenging situation, and then getting quite quickly pregnant. But it's funny because my mom said to me at the time that she didn't have any idea how I would be like as a mom, whereas I was somehow something natural took over. And I was completely present, because at the time I hadn't been practicing yoga for a long time yet. Yeah, but I've been very present during the pregnancy and with my baby, and with breastfeeding. Breastfeeding was just really the moment to sit and look at my baby, and be really in that whole presence of baby's needs. And that's that's continued. And then they get 3 and 4 years old, and I think, oh.
Yep.
But I continued, and this has been part of my time in the ashram as well. We would always have, on Sunday we would get our homework, which was a practice for a whole week, at 6 a.m. in the morning. And then we would write about our practice and then send in our comments. And then on the Sunday thereafter, and then on the Tuesday, we would get really kind of elaborate feedback from our teacher. So I've always, well, actually it was during that, my youngest one was 2 years old that I started my yoga teacher's training. Yeah, so I was, he was still waking up very early and still, kind of breastfeeding. But I was doing my practice at 6 a.m. So that was with already my youngest one around. My older one would sleep a little bit longer. And that was really needed. That was really needed to have a yoga practice. Doesn't matter in a sense at that time then what it is, but it's indeed so much needed, just because you're all the time basically serving their needs and they need you all the time. You really need to put yourself a bit, and it kind of happens, but it's so important to do take somewhere the space. And from what I've done, they know that that's part of my day, even though now my youngest one still comes demands everything in my practice. But I think that's also the thing. Yoga is also about, you know, what we're talking about. It's not only on the mat. Around you, it's that inner connection that you start building up. It says, sorry, my connection is unstable, so I hope
it cut off a little bit, but we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that even regardless of what is happening around you and what they might be screaming about and how many toys are lying around or whatever, it's important that you can stay connected to that inner part, but whatever that is and whatever that feels like, because also that keeps on developing, in a sense, how you connect to that, and obviously your breath. So that's, I've really seen that growing, as I continued yoga.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you hear a lot that yoga helps calm the nervous system. And I think when you're a parent and you're raising kids, that is one of the major things that you need to work on, is calming your nervous system. I had it this morning. We had like a horrendous start to the morning, and trying to get my child to school. Oh my goodness, we were late for school and it was all going wrong. But then, you remember your practice, you stand there, you breathe, and you're like, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Just breathe through it and get her to school. So yeah, it really, really does help with the nervous system. I've loved hearing like your take on yoga, because I feel like a lot of people I've spoken to, it has been, although we say, about calming the nervous system and mindset, and it's still kind of been about the poses and the physical side of yoga. So it's nice hearing more of the mindset stuff. Before we finish this,
can I just add one more thing there?
Yeah, carry on.
It's because, we're talking about a lot about, calming the nervous system, but at the same time, as a mom, you also need a lot of energy.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's I mean, those two, I think still they go together.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah, and your yoga practice can do both, can't it? Because it can also bring you energy, especially like the Kundalini.
I do think when you practice, even if it's really kind of soft and releasing, I mean, from a state of release, that's from where also, again, I mean, it might be first that you do actually feel maybe tired because you haven't been aware, let's say, of for instance, physical tension. But afterwards, it's from a place of release and relaxation that energy, obviously comes as well.
Yes. Yeah. So for anybody listening who's struggling with energy, get and do some yoga. Yeah, definitely. So what's before we end then, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is maybe a busy mum or who is feeling a little bit burnt out, other than just go and do yoga, because we all know that everyone should just go and do yoga, but what specific bit of advice could you give someone listening right now?
For myself, been into looking at compassion and what are your values, and I think that's actually something very often missing. And I think if you get that for yourself quite well established, I think from there with yoga, you will, I think you will develop probably develop less. But I think you might continue feeling yourself better and reminding yourself that you are also you. Yeah, and that's, I think, what yoga is also about. It's going to that inner self, and not, even though we all, let's say, if we are to say that we all have different roles as a mother, as a wife, a partner, as a friend, or whatever, I wouldn't want to. And even though I've done that, but I also through yoga, it kind of starts kind of fading away. And that's something, I think important to realize and to remember.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved this conversation. Where can people find you? I'll make sure that I leave all your links, but if you just let everyone know now, that would be amazing.
Yes. So the name of my yoga is called designinyoga. And that's also on Instagram, that you will find on social media. My website it's basically live, but I still have a few things to adjust. So I'm not kind of sharing that yet, but it's basically that name as well. But yeah.
Amazing. So when that is ready, I will make sure that I link that up as well. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It was a nice conversation.
Thank you.